In the cramped wooden alleys of Vesterkvarter, life in 1728 was already a daily battle. Copenhagen was a bustling fortress city of about 70,000 souls, squeezed behind thick walls and canals. Narrow streets, barely 6 feet wide, twisted between tall, half-timbered houses packed with families, merchants, and the poor. The air smelled of fish, smoke from countless hearths, and the salty sea. Meet young Karen Sørensen, a 22-year-old laundress. She shared a tiny attic room with 2 other women, rising before dawn to scrub linen in harsh lye baths that burned her hands raw. Her days blurred between the fish market at Gamel Strand, where widows gutted herring with frozen fingers, and helping at a small tavern. Life was hard under King Frederick IV, with wars, trade, and the constant shadow of poverty. But on the warm, dry evening of October 20th, something far worse ignited. In a modest house near Vesterport, a candle tipped over, perhaps by a careless child or busy parents melting wax. Flames licked the dry timber. At first it seemed small. Neighbors shouted buckets past, but strong southwesterly winds fanned the blaze. Within hours it leaped across roofs like a hungry beast. Karen, returning from work, saw the orange glow and felt the heat on her face. "God help us," she whispered, grabbing her few belongings, a shawl, some coins, and a small wooden cross her mother had given her. Little did she know this was only the beginning of 3 days of hell. By midnight, panic gripped the city. The fire raced through St. Petersstrade, devouring student dormitories and professors' homes at the University of Copenhagen. Bells rang wildly, not for prayer but alarm. Thousands poured into the streets, carrying what they could: furniture, clothes, crying children. Soldiers and sailors tried to fight the flames, but chaos ruled. Water pumps stuck in narrow lanes, and some firefighters, exhausted and thirsty, drank too much ale instead of working. Karen joined the frantic crowds. She helped an elderly neighbor carry a heavy chest, her lungs burning from smoke. The wind howled, pushing embers like fiery rain. Churches became shelters. People dragged heirlooms to Vorfru Kirk and others, hoping stone walls would protect them. But even the university library, with its priceless books and manuscripts, was at risk. Scholar Arne Magnusson desperately saved his precious Icelandic handwritten treasures, loading carriages while his printed books turned to ash. Homes collapsed in bursts of sparks. Families separated in the confusion. Karen's heart pounded as she searched for friends. "Stay low, cover your mouth," she yelled to a group of terrified children. The fire jumped the canals in places, fueled by the dry summer. By morning on the 21st, huge parts of the medieval city, nearly half, were doomed. Karen's own lodging was gone, reduced to glowing ruins. Survival demanded quick thinking. With gates closed at times to prevent desertion, escape was limited. People smashed through walls to create fire breaks. Karen found herself in a human chain, passing buckets from the canals. Her arms ached, but stopping meant death. She saw unimaginable scenes. A mother shielding her baby with her body, merchants abandoning shops to save lives, and professors mourning lost knowledge. One professor, Peter Horribo, lost almost everything but escaped with his life. Bishop Kristen Worm returned from travel to find only the clothes on his back. Yet acts of kindness shone through the horror. Neighbors shared bread and water. Karen comforted a young boy who had lost his family, promising, "We will rebuild. Denmark is strong." Soldiers finally organized better, using thousands of men to contain the blaze. But the wind and dry wood made it a monster. By the second night, exhaustion set in. Karen huddled in a crowded churchyard, sharing stories to keep spirits alive. Tales of past hardships reminded everyone they had endured plagues and wars before. Her simple faith and resilience kept her going. No grand heroics, just ordinary courage in extraordinary times. The fire raged into October 22nd and 23rd. It consumed churches, homes, and archives. Cultural treasures vanished forever, ancient records, scientific notes by great minds like Ole Romer. Smoke blanketed the city, turning day to night. Karen's group moved again as flames approached their shelter. They waded through debris, dodging falling timbers. What it took to survive was more than luck. It was community, helping strangers, making split-second decisions, and holding on to hope when everything burned. Karen lost her few possessions but saved a neighbor's child. She witnessed the human spirit, sailors from the fleet hauling water, citizens forming lines to salvage what they could. Finally, early on the 23rd, the fire was tamed. But Copenhagen lay in ruins, 600 buildings gone, 15,000 people homeless, about 20% of the population. As smoke cleared, the true cost hit. Yet from the ashes rose determination. Reconstruction began almost immediately, lasting until 1737. New rules emerged: wider streets, better fire defenses, stone and brick replacing vulnerable wood in key spots. The city learned hard lessons about preparation, water supply, and organization. Karen Sørensen, like thousands of survivors, started over. She found work helping clear rubble and later in the rebuilt markets. Her story and those of countless others reminds us of resilience. The Great Fire of 1728 destroyed much but could not break the Danish spirit. Copenhagen rose stronger, its people proving that survival is about endurance, unity, and the will to rebuild. In the end, what it took was heart, ordinary people facing extraordinary terror and choosing to fight on. Today, when you walk modern Copenhagen, remember the flames of 1728 and the quiet heroes who ensured the city endured. What would you do if your world caught fire? Word count, approx 920. Perfect for YouTube narration with dramatic music swells, AI visuals of flames and crowds, and chapter timestamps for engagement. The morning of October 23, 1728 revealed a city in ruins. Smoke still rose from smoldering piles where homes once stood. Nearly 28% of Copenhagen lay destroyed. Over 600 buildings gone. Karen Sørensen stood among the wreckage near Vesterport, her face blackened by soot, her clothes torn. Everything she owned was ash. Like 15 others, almost 1 in 5 citizens, she was now homeless. Winter approached fast. The nights grew bitterly cold. Makeshift shelters sprang up in churches and open squares. Karen joined a group of women and children in the ruins of a warehouse, huddling under salvaged blankets. Food was scarce. Prices soared as merchants struggled. She traded her last coins for bread and shared it with the young boy she had saved, little Jens. "We survived the fire," she told him softly. "We will survive the frost." Disease spread quickly in the crowded camps. Coughs turned deadly in the damp air. Every day tested their will. Yet small mercies appeared. Kind neighbors offered soup, and soldiers distributed blankets from the royal stores. King Frederick IV declared aid for the victims. Royal decrees ordered food distributions and temporary housing. But bureaucracy moved slowly. Karen volunteered at a relief point near the canals, helping sort donated clothes. She listened to stories from all walks of life. Rich professors who lost libraries now begged alongside poor fishwives. Scholar Arne Magnusson had saved his precious Icelandic manuscripts but lost his home and printed books. He moved between shelters that harsh winter. Communities banded together like never before. Carpenters and masons formed teams to clear debris. Karen carried water and tended the injured, her laundress hands now building calluses from heavy labor. Rumors spread of looting, but most people helped one another. Churches rang bells not for alarm but for hope and prayer services. The strong southwesterly winds that fueled the fire were gone, but memories of the chaos, drunken firefighters, closed gates, scarce water fueled calls for change. Survivors shared what they had, proving that in Denmark's darkest hour, unity was their greatest weapon. Grief hit hardest at night. Karen mourned lost friends in the simple life she knew. One evening she found a half-burned wooden cross in the rubble, her mother's gift, now a blackened symbol of endurance. Tears came, but so did resolve. She adopted little Jens after learning his family perished. "You are my family now," she whispered. Small victories kept hope alive. Karen reunited with a tavern friend who had escaped with a cart of supplies. Together they set up a simple stall selling salvaged goods. News arrived that Reconstruction plans were forming. Wider streets to prevent future fires, stricter building codes. Professors salvaged what knowledge they could. The university vowed to rebuild its collection. Karen's hands, once raw from lye, now helped plant seeds for new gardens and cleared lots. Life pushed forward, one brick, one kind act at a time. The fire took much, but it could not steal their spirit or their stories. By spring 1729, true rebuilding accelerated. Workers demolished dangerous ruins and laid foundations for a new Copenhagen. The effort lasted until 1737, transforming the medieval tangle into something safer. Stone and brick replaced many wooden frames. Fire brigades trained better, with clearer streets for pumps and organized water supplies. Karen found steady work as a laundress for a rebuilding crew. She watched the city rise, new homes, markets, and churches. Little Jens grew stronger, helping fetch tools. The harsh winter of 1728-29 claimed many, including weakened elders, but survivors like Karen adapted. Trade resumed at the ports. Ships brought timber and supplies. King and officials learned from mistakes. Better planning prevented the total collapse that could have followed. Karen often told Jens tales of that fateful October night, teaching him resilience. "The fire tested us," she said, "and we answered with hammers and hearts." Years later, Copenhagen stood taller. The Great Fire of 1728, one of the worst in its history alongside the 1795 blaze, left few medieval traces, but it forged a more resilient city. Karen Sørensen lived to see her adopted son thrive as a craftsman. Her simple story became one of thousands woven into Denmark's history. Ordinary people who faced terror and chose to rebuild. What it truly took to survive was courage in chaos, kindness in scarcity, and vision for tomorrow. The fire destroyed archives and homes, but the human spirit endured. Today, when you walk Copenhagen's streets, remember the laundress who carried water through flames and the survivors who turned ashes into strength.